Hello, Internet. How are you doing? I am back. This is Ellis on the Ellis Broadcast. So, if you have found yourself here or stumbled across this before, you'll know what this is all about. This is sort of my little stream about politics, mainly about politics, about economics, about what's going off in the world, maybe a bit of geopolitics here and there. Just mainly me rambling on for about an hour. Most of it off the cuff. Although I've tried to do a bit more research this week, and I'm going to change a few things. Change it for what I think is for the better. Yes, so this is now my 6th stream, I believe. I'll have to check Spotify. I am putting these on Spotify. I'm just solely on Rumble today. The reason why that is because I found me using this app on my computer. If I stream to multiple different places, it makes it a bit laggy. And to be quite honest with you, it's just more setting up for that I have to do before I'm on. So we'll do it straight on Rumble, and then I'm just going to put the video straight on YouTube afterwards. So what's the change going to be? What are we going to do different this week? Well, beforehand, I've been doing these monologues, rumbling on for about, trying to do 50 minutes to an hour. I found that I don't think I suit that. One is because I don't fancy just typing up a big monologue before I come on here. I don't fancy reading something off of a board. I want this to feel like I'm having a chat with you, like I'm chatting to one of my friends sat here. So this is how I want it to be. I want this to be a bit of a two-way thing. I accept I'm not always right. I am, what should we call it? Treading the world of politics with an open mind. I'm a glass half full person. So I want to hear people's perspectives. I'll give you my own and see if you agree or see if you don't agree. And I spend most of my day giving little mini monologues on X. So I don't need to do any more on here. But yes, that reminds me. So yes, I'm on Rumble, but please follow me on my social. Please follow me on all my social media. So I posting all day on X. I snippet this video up on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook and Instagram. So by the end of the week, you can probably watch the whole thing because it's been chopped up. But yes, I do snippet these up. And like I say, I like to talk about what's been going off. And my change is I'm going to review the week. Ellis reviews a week, or reviews the news that's been on my mind, maybe really pissed me off. Some hypocrisy, some of the things that I feel like people should be waving their arms around a bit more. Because I certainly was when I was reading some of these things. And plus, there's so much going on in a week. I feel like just pinpointing one thing, just going, I'm going to stick with that and do a monologue, is, it's quite, I don't know what the word to say. What word should I use there? It limits me from what I can do, and I want to talk about everything. I want to talk about as much as I can. But yes, I'm going to review the week. I'm going to go over the news this week, and I'm going to say what I feel like, what my opinion is, give you my, I'm not going to hold back on what I think. Certainly not, even if it might lead me to a knock at the door. But, here it goes. What else have we gone off this week before I go? Oh, my New Year's resolution to read a book a week. I'm actually up one. I've read 2 books this week too. So I started the week reading Machiavelli's The Prince, which has been actually really good. I started reading it and I thought, oh, bloody hell, that's a bit of a hard read, this. Bit of a hard read, But actually, it's very interesting because I'm sure I've been going down the avenue of realpolitik, which I'm going to go into probably some of these stories here, what we're going to talk about today. But realpolitik, which is the power dynamics, which is just power politics, essentially. And I did a bit of a rant about it last week with Trump, how he's toppled Maduro in Venezuela and he's gone on to do the art of the deal in Greenland. I started trying to go down the avenue of real politics because I realised that I didn't really actually know quite a lot about it. Or I did, but I didn't know the history and, and actually it's not until I've gone down this sort of avenue that you really appreciate that the society we're in at the moment, right, wasn't built through inclusivity, like they like to say. Wasn't built through being nice and being open and being feminized. The fact that we can have some of these negative opinions about our world leaders, and the fact that we're in a country, and I did a tweet about this earlier, the fact that we're in a country where we can talk about, so in fact, let me provide some context actually. I was reading an article today in the Telegraph and it was talking about how we should feel bad. We sort of should carry on apologising for our earlier colonial ways in Britain, right? And it's not until you start reading realpolitik or the avenue of realpolitik with books that you start realising, well, that's just silly. Because if the world has been developed, society in this world has been developed through realpolitik, through the politics of power, right? And the fact that you can sit there and have an article and sit there and procrastinate and talk about it over breakfast. Oh, wasn't the colonies, weren't the British colonies so abhorrent? The fact that you can sit there in relative safety in a successful country, or what used to be a successful country like Britain today, is the fact that real politics and power politics and the politics of empire building existed. So it blows my mind. I'm actually going to go into that actually. I've got the Chagos Islands on my list of things to rant about. But yes, I've read that. And then I've gone on to, what's this saying? It's Bronze Age Mindset. I've already come on this book already. I've already come on this already, and I can't even remember the book I was reading. Where is it? It's by Bronze Age Pervert. Bronze Age Mindset. I was right. Bronze Age Mindset by Bronze Age Pervert. I think it's quite a controversial book, but again, that sort of talks about masculinity, almost touching on that sort of realpolitik. I don't want to use the V word, but I hate the word vibe, so realpolitik sort of narrative. That's been an interesting read as well. It's one of these books where I'm like, sometimes I'm thinking, oh, yeah, this is actually quite a hard listen, and then suddenly it'll come up with something that I'm really interested in. I was like, oh, but I'll really tune in to listen to this. But yes, I'm 2 books down this week, which is good. So I've got one in the bank, just in case I have a long one, because I actually want to go into the histories of Britain, actually. Because I feel like if I'm commenting on British politics, I feel like to put myself in a good stead to do that. Pretty similar to what Douglas Murray was saying on his new Culture Forum podcast the other week. I feel like if I'm commenting on British politics, I need to know a lot more about British politics. Certainly a lot more than what you get taught in schools. Because pretty much what I learned about history was, what was it? Slave trade, or how we should feel bad. Or, we should feel bad. Slave trade was abhorrent, but that's what we learned about it. I feel like we learned about in history. Slave trade and Henry VIII. And now Henry VIII was another abhorrent person who did bad things to his wives, right? We didn't learn anything, like, as I was talking about the other week, we didn't learn anything about William Pitt the Younger being the most successful prime minister, That would have been useful in the bank to understand what political party we need next after the next general election. That would have been good little history there. Or we didn't learn anything, when we learned about the slave trade, we didn't learn anything about William Wilberforce and the fact that Britain was instrumental in curbing it in the West. We didn't learn anything about that, I think British history that you learn at school is very, very slim and misses out of a lot of things. But yes, what I'm going to go into next week, I think I'm going to read next week. I think I'm going to read a bit of David Starkey. Now, I love listening to a bit of David Starkey on podcasts. He's one of them type of guys where I could just listen to him for hours and be interested and tuned in, because he's just when you listen to people talking who are so knowledgeable about anything, I just find them so interesting. And he's got a couple of books, but he's got the one I want to read next week, which is going to be quite a long one, so I don't know if I'm actually fit it in. So luckily I've got one banked. Is the ones on Kings and Queens of Britain. Because I think I did start reading that in the past, actually. And then I think was I listening to it on Spotify? And then I got rid of my Spotify account for a bit, so I didn't finish it off. So I'm going to start it again. And it's got, well, I say started it, I've got about first chapter in, but it goes on the history and quite a lot around just the kings and queens of Britain, not just like sort of listing them all. So I'm looking forward to reading that next. But yes, like I said last week, this is not a book club, so we'll move on quickly. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do a book club. Because I think people need to read more. Maybe if I have a bit more time in the week, maybe I might do that sort of thing. Because one of the criticisms I've got about a lot of people who would assign themselves to the centre-right, even though I hate that sort of political spectrum bollocks, you know. Oh, you're definitely on centre-right, you. Because, for me, I support things on the right, and people describe me as being a centre-right with my politics, but I also support some things on the left, which I'm going to go into today, especially with council housing. Yeah, I'm definitely in for a bit of that, but with a catch. But anyway, let's go on to what I'm going to talk about. Let's get into it this week. So what is the top thing on my list? Oh, yes, when I read this on social media. Oh, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Obviously, I'm being entirely sarcastic here. I was spitting flames when I read this. And I wonder if anybody's heard about the Movement Forward or Reform UK or Anti-Reform UK tactical votership. So, there has been a movement set up on social media and on the internet and on podcasts and probably on mainstream media because they loathe reform, especially some of the more established ones like the BBC. So the usual suspects have clubbed together. They've got together, right? And they've set up a new tactical voting system. Should we call it system? Cabal. Trying to think of some other negative words. Deluge. Is it a deluge? Just utter disgrace, really. Because I actually hate tactical voting. When everybody tells me I'm going to do tactical voting because of any sort of political, because of maybe, or there's no point in me voting that person because of, they're never going to get in anyway, so I'll just vote that person because it's more likely they're going to get in. Or you hear people going, I hate that political party, so I'm going to vote that one. And I'm going to vote that one. I don't even support what they say, but I just can't bear that other political party come in. I hate the word tactical voting. I hate it. But anyway, this new movement has been set up by the usual suspects. So, who they refer to now as activists. So, one of them being Carol Vorderman. I don't know if she's still classed as an activist. I know she doesn't do television programs anymore. I know she's not the maths woman anymore on Countdown. But is she classed as an activist now? And also you got Femi. Yeah, Femi. Oh, for a while I didn't follow him. His posts seem to come up on my Twitter quite often, right? Femi. And I had to. He's one of the very few people that I had to just mute. I just don't want to see it. The posts on there are utter ridiculous, right? If anybody's seen it, it's typically what you would describe his posts. People say it's far left. I wouldn't even go that far. I think it's just utterly fucking ridiculous. And just utter slop narratives, trying to claim that everybody's a racist, everyone's a white supremacist, everybody is just the worst term that you can come from. We've had it for the past 10 years. I need to label you as something because of you're obviously that. And with no robust debate into what people are saying, no robust sort of thought, just utter slop. I can't even think of examples because he was just frustrating. I think he's got a book out as well, which is just an utter pages and pages of slop as well. Yeah, he's one of those people. I think Super Stansky, I can't remember her name. another social media account that I muted because it just comes out with utter slop garbage. But Carol Vorderman's the one that really winds me up with this one. So in fact, let me share it on my screen. Actually, I'm all over IT. Actually, so here's the all over IT. I'm actually an IT engineer by trade. Actually, so I should be all right on IT. But here is the movement forward. You should be able to see. Oh no, that's not the wrong one. Yeah. Oh no, we're already. Here we go. Moving forward. Oh no, don't want to move that one. There we go. Moving forward. Here it is. So, what the plan is with this movement forward is that everybody joins. I suspect that they, mobilising. So let me read it. So what they want you to do is they want to win. So tactical voting goes mainstream. Together we can mobilise the nation with this call to action for a new government, which I'll go into a minute because I don't think they're asking for that. I don't think they're asking that for all, especially not Carol Vorderman. Tactical voting at an industrial scale. Industrial. And they want to drown out the right wing. Drown out the right wing, fuck's sake. Tell a new government we showed up for a proportional representation. Proportional representation, actually. That's something that I actually would be behind, I think. Because I actually think if we had proportional representation, these clowns wouldn't be anywhere near government. Or any sort of their government, or any sort of their political parties that they seem to support won't be anywhere near government. But anyway, we will use our votes for change. And they want policies for a thriving country. When our votes really count in elections, our communities and our causes finally get a seat at the table. This is the goal. And I think it goes on. Is there something more on here? Stop. Vote tactically. Stop reform vote. Stop reform. Tactical voter. Get that on your car. Get on your windows. Tactical voters. Because they want to end corruption. Protect and improve our public services. Because they think they're going to get improved by voting probably for the Greens or some clowns like that. Green economic revolution. What's enough of this? Oh, here we go. We got them all. We got the usual suspects. Got the pictures here now as well. So, Marina Purkiss, the bastion of politics. Abby Heffer. I don't know who that is. Josh Russell. Super Tansky. Yes. All the greats. We need to turn... is that the... We need to turn that into that. We live in a crisis. Food banks, low wages, unaffordable bills, record temperatures, water drying up, or full of sewage. A government above the law, let's fix it. I don't know how long I can do this. I don't know how far I can do this because of, this is already winding me up. Right. But let's just look at it. So... First thing first, let's talk about Carol Vorderman. Let's see if we can put this to a side a bit. So, if anybody saw on the run up to the last Labour government, in fact, let's fine. Carol Vorderman was instrumental in supporting Labour. She's always been a Labour supporter. And then when Labour came in and they started talking about getting rid of, I think it was the winter fuel allowance. What's the other crazy shit that they've been involved in? All the what do they call it? What's the word they call it? Because the Tories, it's the Tory when they were being just dodgy. Or the dodginess. Then we'll just use that word. Or the dodginess of Labour. What was the other things that they got rid of? Or the tax rises. The fact that they were talking about welfare reforms. Pretty much what happened was, right, you sort of saw it, that Carol Vorderman was all for Labour, and then suddenly when they come in, they realise that they're utter just useless. These people go silent. She was one of the people that went silent. Very silent. You stopped seeing her on television, you stopped seeing her doing interviews about political parties, and maybe there was some buyer's remorse there. But what these people want, so as you see, you're here, look. Let's talk about the hypocrisy, actually. Let's do it, We want food banks. We want to get rid of food banks. Well, why are people eating at food banks? Why? Do these people know why are people eating at food banks? Yes, because they can't afford food. Well, why is it they can't afford food? Well, because food prices have been going up exponentially. That's one of the reasons. Why has food prices been going up exponentially? Let's think. Oh, is it because we've got a crazy energy policy in this country? A crazy energy policy in the country. It means we've got some of the most highest commercial electricity prices in the world. Maybe that's not helpful. Maybe that's not. Or the fact that because energy prices and food and grain prices for farming has gone up so much, that farming has become that expensive that they have to their costs go up, or the fact they just don't even bother farming anymore. Look at beef farming, for example. I did an article about it the other day. Beef inflation has gone up 27.5% in the last year. Why do you think that is? Price of energy and the fact that beef farmers are going because they don't make no money. Maybe that's adding to food banks. Or it's the fact that, people, as money is going less and less and less because the amount of tax they have to pay. The amount they have to pay just to keep a roof over their heads. Price of energy again. It's expensive to turn your heating on. Expensive to switch your lights on. Expensive to run a computer. It's expensive to fuel your car to go to work. It's expensive buying clothes. Everything's going up in price. Why? Well, let's talk about it. It's expensive to even buy a house or get rent. Why is that? Because everything is going up. And all of it can be linked to somewhere or another, whether it's through the government debasing the currency, whether it's because the government's spending means they're having to ask for more tax, whether the government's is just crazily seeking this insane energy policy that's driving up the price of everything as well, or the fact that, businesses are leaving, so they ain't paying as much tax. We can find all the ways, all of it leads back to the government. And the majority, it leads back to the government spending too fucking much. Spending too much. And these people, moving forward, want to get rid of food banks and sort out low wages. Low wages. Here's another bit of hypocrisy. Because the government has put up minimum wage so much, which drives up inflation, but they put up minimum wage so much that young people now are struggling to get employed. They're struggling to get employed because the employers can't afford staff anymore. So I think it works out like 21 and below at the moment are getting seen off for jobs more than ever because employers, low-paid employers or employers that would typically pay on minimum wage, because minimum wage increases have gone up so much, they're not employing people anymore. And you've got all these sorts of new legislations, the Employers' Rights Bill and all that sort of thing. Young people can't get jobs, but they want to sort out low wages. Maybe, here's an example. Or maybe the government stops spending so much, so they have to tax less on people's wages, so wages go further. Or they can almost feel like they're having a pay rise. So another example, this is one of the reforms policies. One of the things they've suggested, which I thought was really good, is lowering the bottom bracket of income tax. So thus giving people an instant pay rise, right? These people have been dragged into the tax bracket through the consistent minimum wage increases, through fiscal drag. And also that's appealing because of people who are sat on benefits who don't want to come off benefits because there's, financially it doesn't make sense, because as soon as you come off benefits, they have to pay their income tax and they get paid less working than they would just sat on them. Also drives people back into work that way. Isn't that a miracle? But what do we have to do that? Maybe we have to get a grip of public spending. Public spending, which is driven up by the government. Which reform these big bad people, or even the Conservatives now. In fact, even Labour are even talking about it now. The fact that they need to get a grip of public spending because that's driving up taxes. Well, I think Labour just talk the talk probably, but they're not going to do anything. But Reform are the only political party at the moment that I would trust to do anything with it, because I know the Tories are talking about it, but you know what their promises are like. Record temperatures. There we go. We're on this one. So obviously talking about global warming here. So they want to carry on. With the net zero bollocks, probably. Or if not, some sort of draconian measure to get more solar and wind energy or renewables into this country, right? As if anyone's not seeing at the moment, people might have seen constant kissing on Question time the other week. No, question time, I think it was Wednesday, Thursday? I don't know if it's on a regular day. But he was on this week. He was on Question Time this week. And he made a brilliant point that people have been making for quite a while. And even now the BBC is starting to say, yeah, that's sort of right. Because they had a professor on as well this week talking about global warming and net zero. More about net zero and the net zero policies. So he's either the BBC is going to listen to him or he's just going to get his get blocked off the contacts list. But yes, if you heard Constant Kissing this week, which was really good, he said it quite plainly. You cannot have net zero and have growth. They don't work. You cannot have a crazy expensive energy policy that net zero is causing, and it always will cause it because it has to be massively subsidised by the public purse. Well, not public purse, by people paying for it. You cannot have a net zero and have growth. Net zero just means net zero growth. He didn't say that week, but he says that in his book. His book's quite good as well. Right? We in the UK produce 1% of global carbon emissions. 1%. So if we stopped creating carbon emissions tomorrow, we would save 1%. In fact, I would argue we wouldn't even save that. Because like what's been happening over the past, how many years we've been pursuing net zero, what we've done is just offshored all of manufacturing. We've given it away. We've given it away to China and the rest of the developing world where they don't give a shit about what energy they use. They don't give a shit about how their energy is created. They don't give a shit about their manufacturing practices. They don't give a shit. And then what they do is they put it on to a boat, and these boats transport it all the way here. Probably dirty fuels on them ships. They probably don't give a fuck about them being eco. I don't even know if a shit can be eco. But the fact that what we've done here, we're able to manufacture it here, which was subject to, which we've offshored, and now we're all these politicians are going, clapping, saying, yeah, we've lowered our carbon emissions. No, you haven't. Not on a world scale. In fact, you've increased them because you're importing all your shit in from foreign countries. And then, because we're doing that, manufacturing is gone and people are out of jobs. Or maybe that'll help for the low wages. Maybe that will help with the fact that let's get manufacturing back to Britain. Maybe that'll help there. But you know what? Oh, I realise it's not on the screen. Maybe that'll help with the low wages. Let's bring back some manufacturing here. But we're not going to be doing that, are we? We're not going to be doing that while we've got a crazy energy policy. That means we've got the most expensive commercial electricity in the fucking world. And then let's look to the future. What is coming? We are moving from the industrial age to the digital age. What does the digital age mean? That means we're going to require more componentry that's reliant on energy. Data centers, AI. And if you're a company, you're a big company, a Silicon Valley type company, and you're thinking, I need to invest in data centers in Europe. Where will I put them? Do I put them in a country that's got some of the most expensive energy prices in the world? Or do I put them somewhere else where it hasn't? I know the good British government's saying we're all for business, but it doesn't look like they're for business for me when their energy's so high. And also their taxes out through the fucking roof. Probably not going to put in business there. And we're seeing that because the businesses are leaving in the droves, not only for the energy policy, but also the tax policy. And you can see it with the trade deficit. So the trade deficit is how much we export versus we import. And the trade deficit is increasing year on year, month on month. Right? Okay? So, yeah. I don't think tackling record temperatures here in the UK is going to help for low wages and food banks and unaffordable bills anytime soon. Water drying up full of sewage, yeah. You know what, to be honest with you, I can get behind that. But do I think who these are going to tactically vote for? Who are they going to tactically vote for? Like Labour again? Labour again? Are they going to tactically vote for that? If these people are going to sign people to tactically vote for Labour again, right? That's got to be on a level of some sort of weird imposter syndrome. My mind has gone now. Stockholm syndrome. It's got to be some sort of weird Stockholm syndrome, right? Why the fuck will you vote these people? Because if Labour are not doing any of that. In fact, they're exacerbating it. Other than record temperatures. But even then, I would argue they are. If you're on that global warming. But water drying up full of sewage, well, they're not tackled that Labour, have they? Because of water drying up or water full of sewage seems to be still happening right now. And then a government above the law. A government above the law. Well, this Labour Party seems to think it's above the law. The Tories did. And, well, Reform haven't even had a chance to. So, it's kind of harsh to say that they feel like they're above the law, but, you know, it is what it is. But yes, they have got this drive moving forward for tactical voterships. I suspect what they'll probably push for is probably the Green Party. But, you know, what they're asking for there, they want all that, right? They want all this ticking off. They want all these nice things, because it's what it's about. It's about nice things with these people. They want everything because that's nice, but they don't understand the fact that to get a thriving economy, get a thriving country and a thriving government means that people have to make decisions that are not nice, that aren't sometimes easy to swallow. Because we cannot have a government like we've got at the moment who's rampantly spending well beyond its means, taxing its citizens to death, pursuing an energy policy that's basically an activist energy policy that's making us all, well, leaving pensioners having to choose between freezing and eating every winter, literally killing pensioners every winter, right? This is what this country is doing at the moment. You cannot have all these nice things that they want to have whilst pursuing all this craziness that this government's doing at the moment. It can't happen. These two things don't happen. The only way you can have people coming off food banks, people having better wages, you know, people getting away from unaffordable bills, in my opinion, at the moment, is to get the government off their backs. That's the only way. And the only way we're going to do that is to cut back the state. Make the state smaller. But then these people were dead against that because we're going to have to start talking about cutting benefits, shaving down the benefits, even looking at people where maybe you should be at work. Or maybe we don't need to give people a brand new car. Maybe we just give them a bus pass. And we're going to have to start a serious conversation about the NHS. The NHS. This is a mental one as well. So whenever you start talking about the fact that we need to have an honest conversation about the NHS and how it can continue being the free at a point of use, or how it's unsustainable, people start waving their arms around. People think that you're calling for an American-style system. That does not mean we're calling for that. But at the moment, the NHS doesn't work. It takes fucking ages to get an appointment for any sort of operation or any sort of procedure, right? There's lots and lots of dodginess. You know, people being in beds in corridors for months on end, or not months on end, for hours on end. You know, procedures going wrong. You know, the NHS is not in a good state at the moment. But people want the NHS to be better, right? They want the NHS to be better, but they don't want to spend more money at it because if that's what's causing our taxes to go up. But they don't want to have an honest conversation about the fact that the services of which it's providing cannot continue, or we need to change the way that we're providing services. Maybe some sort of French-style insurance system. I think the Australians are very similar, where you'll have national insurance that gets you to a certain amount and also helps people that cannot afford healthcare, but then the average person has to top it with a further private insurance sort of mechanism to top up the difference. Maybe we need to have a conversation like that. But when everybody talks about the NHS, you normally get the people waving their arms around, heads dropping off, thinking you want an American-style system. That's not what you want. But anyway, this is the sort of things we need to talk about, cutting back on. If you want all these nice things out of the government, if you want people to be thriving, have better jobs, more business here in the UK, we need more business here in the UK because AI, in the next couple of years, is going to take people's fucking jobs away. You know, we're already talking about having sentient AI in 2 years' time. They're already talking about this year that 1 in 6 people are going to lose their fucking jobs. Or 1 in 6 employers are talking about laying people off this year. So it might be not 1 in 6 people being laid off, but 1 in 6 employers are talking about this year laying people off due to AI taking their jobs, right? So we need to shore up as much business here as possible. But we're not going to do that with crazy tax policies and crazy energy policies, which these people are advocating for. Because they might say they're not advocating for a crazy tax policy, but what they're advocating for there is more spending, which is going to cause more tax. So what I've just exposed here, right? Now, I'm no finance expert. I'm no political bastion. I'm not trolling the mainstream media and television. I'm not a presenter of some sort of mathematical TV program, but I can expose here very easy and very quickly the hypocrisy and the fact that these people are asking for something that will never be able to come to fruition because of either they want more tax, which then makes every situation worse, or they don't, but then they need to start looking at cutting back on all some of the nice things, and have to do some not very nice things to be able to achieve what they want. Hypocrisy. But anyway, that's enough on the movement forward. I think I commented about it on social media, on X, when I saw it. Very, very frustrating. Oh, sometimes you've got to laugh about it, because otherwise you'd be bloody... otherwise more of my hair will drop off. So what's the next thing we want to talk about? Labour hypocrisy. Labour hypocrisy on housing, of all things. So, when I saw this again, it really, really wound me up. So, the story blew up this week with Apsana Begum. I think I'm pronouncing it right. If not, I'm just going to run with that anyway. Apsana Begum specifically called out for living in council housing whilst earning 94k plus a year on an MP salary, and then having the brazen attitude to go out on television and criticise shortages of housing, and I believe it's criticise shortages of council housing. So let me get it up. I did have it up and it's shut again. So, let me read this. So, despite admitting that almost 5 years ago, she probably did not need it anymore, Miss Begum's council flat is in the borough of Tower Hamlets, which stipulates that any single person or couple earning over 90 grand a year is not eligible for council housing. Well, why has she still fucking got it then? She's speaking out on behalf. This is what she did this week. This is the bit that I saw right on social media. This is the bit right really did me. She was been speaking out on behalf of speaking out again about the need for more council housing whilst occupying a council flat herself that she should not be occupying because she earns more than 90 grand a year. It's hypocrisy. It's utter fucking hypocrisy. It winds me up. How can these people, right? How can these people come on television, right? Either it's some sort of weird, crazy, the thick of it sort of sketch, where they get pushed onto the cameras, right, without any sort of little bit of brief, bit of jumbled up, pushed onto the stage, don't really know what they're talking about. It's lastminute.com. You go and say this, and you come on stage, and she's, waffling a load of nonsense, pretty much like my stream. And they go on there and they say, we need more council housing, right? And really, you're just being pushed on and they don't really know what they're saying. It's either that or these people don't give a fucking shit. They will say anything. They will say anything as long as it raises their personal profile. And going on and saying that we need more council housing to help the people who are desperate to get into affordable housing will help their cause. I suspect it's the latter, right? Now, I have a personal family member who's trying to look at getting a council house at the moment because they're in a situation where they need one. Okay? Where they need one. I'm not going to go any further than that, but they need one. Right? And it's bloody hard. It's bloody hard to get one. Right? There's a grading system you have to go to. So around here you get a different ones. You get bronze, silver, gold. And that's defined based upon your needs or how much you need a house. And let me tell you, to get off a bronze is quite hard. I'm not quite sure what you need to do to even get off bronze to get to silver. Not even sure. you've got to have a really die set into gold, fuck knows, right? But this is how you prioritise getting council housing. Pretty much, there's big, long, massive waiting list everywhere, right? And what we've got here, and there'll be no difference in Tower Hamlets in London. What we've got here is an MP who can absolutely afford her own property. Yes, London is expensive. And she's admitted that she probably didn't need that flat. But there she is on television claiming that we need more council housing while she occupies one when she shouldn't be. Utter disgrace. I've actually got a different idea about council housing, actually. Call it controversial. Call it controversial, right? I think the allocation of council housing in this country is incorrect. I don't like this sort of way that council housing are assigned to people based upon how much they need it. It's almost like a top trump of how disparaged you are. You're getting on there listing all the things that you got wrong in your life or wrong with you or disabilities or the certain situation you're in or whatever else. And then it's sort of like a extra points to get you on a better chance to get a house quicker. I don't like that. I don't like it because I think a lot of occasions, especially when you talk about disabilities, especially when you talk about single parents, right? A lot of situations where people are in a council house should be solved by the family. I think the allocation of council housing should be prioritised to young married couples. Call this controversial, but this is what I think. In this country at the moment, we have got an epidemic of young people not being able to afford a house. And because they can't afford a house, because of the government has debased the currency that much that they've driven up the price of housing to the point where it's completely unaffordable because they've not built enough. So what they've done is they pumped cheap credit into a housing market that is restrained by planning laws, which has pushed the price of housing up and also encouraged rampant immigration, which has not helped. It means that young people can't afford an house. They can't afford an house, they're not moving out of their parents. Which means young people are not having children. Children being the future of the economy. Here in the West at the moment, we have got a birthing crisis. I think in the UK it's 1.4, 1.5 children per woman, when it should be about 2 to match the replacement rate. And if you look in Asia, it's like Japan, Korea, they've really got low. Scarily low. But talking about here in the UK, I think a lot of that's driven by inflationary economics. Also, there's a lot of societal influence, but inflationary economics is one of the drivers for it. I think council housing in this country should be prioritised to young married couples with a scheme in place that allows people to, which gives the sort of a facility for the people occupying the council houses to save up for a deposit so then they can eventually leave and go and buy their own property. That's what I think should happen. I don't think people should be occupying council houses for the rest of their days. I don't think people should occupy in council houses if their need can be remedied by their family helping them. I don't think that. And I think the council houses should be given to young married couples because if these people are highly likely, one, they provide to the economy anyway because they're a young married couple, they're a young couple, so they're providing most of the economy. And also, they're going to go out to have children. It will encourage them to have children. Or help that. Remedy the fact that we've got low birth rates in this country. Get them out of the parents' houses. Maybe we might see young adults start growing up a bit. Are not pursuing crazy politics like fucking movement forward. Well, maybe that will help that. Well, yes, that's what I think. Call it controversial. People can provide their comments there. They can tell me what they think, but that's what I think. I think young married couples should have priority on council housing because it gets them out of their parents' house. It gets them onto thinking about having children, and it would provide them with a scheme where they could eventually go out and afford their own property. So it'd be a temporary thing. That's what I think should happen. But anyway, what we've got here is a Labour MP who's on a lot of money, and all right money for London, who can afford her own property, probably has got other property, I'm not sure, I'm not read into it that much because it wound me up, who shouldn't be operating a council house. That council house should be going to somebody who actually needs it, and she's occupied it still. And then she'd come on television, utter hypocrisy, or television or interview, wherever she was, saying we need to build more council houses because people are struggling to get them. Actually, to the point of this, right? I think it's because Labour are just, and this government are marred with such utter hypocrisy, marred with this just nonsense, this rubbish like this, and they mar with it that often that it just sort of gets brushed on the carpet. Oh, another bit of, I'm trying to think of the word, another bit of just craziness. What's a better word for that? I don't know, just craziness. Another bit of just insanity. There's another bit more from Labour, like the Tories were at the end as well. It happens that often, we just accept it, rather than what should happen there. And what I generally believe is, right, politicians should be the best of the best. They represent the government. They are in charge of this country. So they should be getting their affairs in order and proper. I said this about, they should be getting affairs in order, right? I've said this on social media so many times. So this, my opinion, whip gone, she shouldn't be an MP anymore. She should resign. If these people had any sort of integrity about them, they go, I can't believe I've done that. In fact, they shouldn't even be selected to be an MP at this point. But they should. But get to this point now where they're on television or on some interview somewhere, and they're calling for council houses while they occupy their own council house, but they don't need. Should be just out of government. Out of government. You should not be there. Disgrace. But that's enough of that one because it just it winds you up. That was the other one this week. So what else have we got? I'm noticing time. I've been rabbiting on here quite a lot. I was rabbiting on about the forward movement for a bit longer than expected. Ooh. Oh, yes. Like my tangent earlier talking about Empire. We have got... Oh, let me just go back to that previous story. I didn't put it on. Did I put it on television? Did I put it on there? No, I didn't. I forgot to put the picture on there. We'll not. We'll just move on. US opposing UK Chagos Island deal. So let me actually put this one on the screen this time. I'll rub it on there. I didn't put it on the screen. So here we go. Where's the button? Is it? Where's the button? Where's the button? Oh, not that one. Oh, yes. Inside, Starmer's battle to convince the White House that his Chagos deal isn't stupid. So we all know it is. Oh, and I got a paywall there, so I cannot go any further. But yes, if anybody's kept up with this, this gem, you may have heard that Keir Starmer and his henchman, is it Sturmer? I think it is. He's sort of... Yes, Keir Starmer is trying to offload the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. And actually, he's going to pay Mauritius. I think he's pay Mauritius a stupid amount of money to take the Chagos Islands, right? Now, no one can really make heads or tail of this, right? And the only sort of rationale that I can believe, I've heard people talk about at the moment, is just because of this is sort of this anti-colonialist sort of movement, where because of the so-called atrocities of the empire of the past, we need to get rid of all of Britain's colonies across the world. It must be. And what they want to do is they want to offload it to Mauritius, who are, say, sympathetic to China, or Chinese sort of politics. He wants to pay Mauritius public money to do that. And he also wants to stay off not only our interest there because we've got an airbase there, but also the Americans who also utilise that place as a militarily, right? Now, Trump's trying to put a stop to this, saying it's stupid. Well, that's exactly what it is. It is stupid. And despite the Labour Party claiming that the Trump administration initially agreed to it, then called it stupid afterwards, although I find that hard to believe, maybe I'm wrong, I find it hard to believe. You got Trump at the moment on a world stage playing realpolitik, pushing, toppling and taking control of Venezuela and talking about taking Greenland. I think the last thing that he's probably going to do is start saying, yes, we should hand over the Chagos Islands, which has got a military base there, which is strategically quite important. I don't think he's going to be doing that anytime soon. And I don't think, I don't think he even probably cares about the fact we're paying Mauritius for it. But I would suspect he probably isn't happy about the fact that we're trying to hand it over to a country that's got sympathies towards China. I suspect that's not what they want. But anyway, Trump claimed, he saw it on Twitter, saying it is utterly stupid. And I'm guessing, and I think it's been blocked now, going to get blocked in the House of Lords. But yes, it's not looking good for that deal, which is definitely great for not only Britain and also the Chagosians, who also do not want it to be handed over to Mauritius. But yes, this is an insane one, and the only one I can rationalise is Herman, not Sturmer. Herman, that's his name, Herman. His legal aid in government. Yes, the only thing I can rationalise it is because of this sort of deep-founded sort of insanity. It is utter insanity, but it's the fact that we need to show ourselves this sort of just insane sort of thing where we need to still feel bad about the empire and colonial ways. It's just nonsense. Utter nonsense, and I'm glad it's getting blocked. I'm glad Keir Starmer is getting showed up on a world stage. I'm glad that Trump is tweeting about Britain. I'm glad it's embarrassing Keir Starmer, and I'm hoping it might sort of help us along the way of, well, even if I keep saying that getting rid of Keir Starmer out of government, or get out of being the PM, but he'll just get replaced by the same sort of thing again. But yeah, I'm glad it's been cancelled on that one. But apparently they're in talks. Apparently Britain and British officials locked in talks with Trump's administration to get the deal back on track. Let's hope it doesn't. And it'd be pretty insane if it did. But yeah, that was a quick one on that one. And then what else we've got this week? Oh, yes, the reason why that was a quick one, because we've got our next one. Well, let me cancel that to screen yet. Oh, we've got the Epstein files. The next batch has been released. And let's have a look what the BBC is saying about this one. Oh, yes. The Prince Andrew is not Prince Andrew anymore, is he? He is just the Duke. Andrew Mountbatten Oh, what have I done there? I'm pressing the wrong button. Oh, no. Oh, dear. There we go. So, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Oh, dear. He's caught in a very strange position. Very questionable position. Over the top of what looks like to be a female, quite young female there. What's the excuse this time? Is it Photoshop? Is it Grok doing some image editing there? Is that what they're going to claim it is? Have anybody seen the Peter Mandelson one where he stood there in his underwear, speaking to what looks like a young female as well? Maybe that's what they could use there. Maybe it's Grok doing all these, like they were putting Keir Starmer in bikini. Maybe it's Grok putting these people in these questionable positions. Obviously not. They have got no excuse for it. It's just an utter disgrace, isn't it? It's just an utter disgrace. Every time I look at this image, I'm absolutely dumbfounded. But there's been an interesting take online. So if anybody don't know, here's some of the hypocrisies that come out on this one. So, yes, the latest files have dropped. There is mentions of Trump in there. There's mentions of Richard Branson in there. There's more damning conversations about Peter Mandelson, who was the Washington ambassador. And Labour didn't get rid of him as being American ambassador until, and give it fair, give him the dues. It was the Tory party that applied pressure on him to get rid of him. But Peter Mandelson, who said he had dropped contact with the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. But then emails come out that he was still talking to him after he was being investigated. And they were quite strange emails, basically saying that he's going to help him get through it. Not helping get through this. He's going to get through this. Sort of consoling him at the fact that he's being investigated for trafficking young girls. And that's quite strange for somebody that says that he broke contact with him as soon as it come out on the news saying that he'd been investigated for that. And it's also quite strange that anybody would keep up a relationship with somebody like that. This person is being accused of doing some very atrocious things. And the last thing you'd want to do if you were an honest human being would be to console the person that's being accused of that. And I certainly wouldn't. I don't care how much of a friend I am to anybody. If they are being accused of any sort of paedophilic sort of accusations, I wouldn't like to speak to them one bit. But this is the tip of the iceberg. So this new drop of the Epstein files is currently being investigated. Not investigated. It's been released to journalists, and it's going to take days, maybe even weeks to get through it all, because it is a big bump. Lots and lots of it. It's images, so it's not exactly like PDFs that you can go and Control F and find the information that you need, so you can't just put Trump in there and find it. It's going to take a lot. Probably going to require some heavy AI usage as well, but to find this information. But already, it's not looking good for old Andrew there, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. But there was an interesting take online. Very interesting take. So, also, another damning thing that's come out with these Epstein files is talking about Bill Gates. So apparently Bill Gates was asking, some people say pleading with Jeffrey Epstein to provide him with some antibiotics because he'd caught an STD off a Russian, should we just call her a model? Should we call it that, right? And he wanted to slip them to his wife. Now because of, obviously, she's had in chance of catching it herself. Now, the accusation would be that he's not told his wife that he's had his affair with a Russian model. That would be the accusation. But I've got to say it, that Bill Gates has come out and vehemently denied all these allegations, saying that it was a draft email from Jeffrey Epstein, that someone sort of, what's the word? Some people would sort of, maybe he was using that to blackmail him or whatever else, but it seems pretty weird. Why would somebody write up a draft email and save it for blackmail, unless they knew that their email was going to get tapped, or maybe they're going to release it to the internet? But it seems pretty weird to do a draft email to catch someone out. I don't know if that sounds plausible to me, but that's what they're saying. So, that's all we can say on that one. But yes, there was an interesting take online that I thought was quite good, and actually did take me to a couple of minutes to actually sit and think about it. So, Andrew, pretty much as these files are dropped, Andrew has been front and centre on the mainstream media. But we've not heard as much about all the other people mentioned in there. My light is strobing, and it is, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but it's really irritating me to the point I might switch it off. Right. Yes. So to the point where let's do it again. I might switch that one off. There we go. It's gonna be a bit darker, but my light is strobing. We've got some studio craziness going off here. Maybe if I switch it back on again. Maybe if I turn it that way. That's better than nothing. Can you see it strobing? No. Right. But yes. There was an interesting take online that because of Andrew's found himself in front and centre in all media outlets at the moment, with less of information about, say, Bill Gates, less information about the Clintons, less information about Richard Branson and all these other big people and big names. Maybe that he's being used as the person, the fall guy, the person that's going to take the rap, whilst the other people have their sort of stories leaked. It's not even a leak. Stories told in the background or in the back or in the on new media only. Am I talking right here? Yeah. So essentially, the speculation is that maybe they put in Andrew's story on front and center so they can hide the stories of the other people. Andrew becoming the fall guy. I thought it was quite interesting. I thought that was quite a good take. It'd be interesting if that's what they're doing. But when I read this story today, and read some of these stories and what's coming out on these sort of Epstein files today, it's been, this morning when I read it, some of them are utterly depraved. Now, I'm not saying that these people, these big names, are involved in this sort of thing. But there has been reports, in these emails that the FBI apparently got information about some very satanic sort of rituals going off where they have been harming children, not only in paedophilic sense, but also harming children in the fact of even stories about children being dismembered, or people saying that there's reports of children being raped by men to the point that they are bleeding, and they just carried on, But the FBI apparently investigated it and didn't see no evidence. But my line is simple with any of this. Because if what's happening in the mainstream media and new media is people just centering around the names, these big names that these people are, and how deprived the upper echelons of society may be. But here's where I'm at here. What we should be talking about is the children. Now, if we as a society cannot protect our most vulnerable, and our most vulnerable are children, and if we cannot protect them from the likes of the most richest and most affluent people in society, then what type of society are we? What are we? If we cannot protect our children from these depraved people, what are we? That's where I'm sitting on this one. It really got me. I'm a father, I've got a young son. And I know some of these stories of these young girls being trafficked here. Some of these people don't come from broken homes. They come from normal families. Some of them come from broken homes as well. But the thought of any of my children being caught up in that, being unsafe, being preyed upon by these sort of people is just, I couldn't even imagine it. I could not even imagine it. It's going to be interesting what's going to come out in the next few days. It's been really weird with the Sky News as well. Sky News was a very weird one, so they come out straight away and said, just because people are mentioned in these files doesn't mean that they are complicit. Maybe not. But it seemed pretty weird for the Sky News to just come out with that line and then block all comments on it. Sounds to me like someone's flapping. It's going to be an interesting few days of these Epstein files. And I think there's going to be a lot of dirt coming out. And you know what? Thank God for new media. Thank God that new media can expose it where the mainstream media will fall short. And they'll fall short because they are subjected to money. And thank God for the people on new media who are doing it just because it's right. But I like to repeat again, these Epstein files, they're just files. Some would call them accusations. These people, the stuff that's come out already, these people are already starting to vehemently deny. So who knows what the truth is? But yeah, it's not looking good on that one for some people. Some of these people that have held themselves on top of the ivory tower and prodded as mere mortals for years. And it turns out that maybe the accusations are arising that these people are more depraved than many of us. But enough on that story, because that also pisses me off. And I think that's pretty much it today. Have I got through it? I was going to go in the ice shootings as well, but I've been blattering on for about over an hour now. And it is 10 o'clock on a school night. And I've got work tomorrow. But yes, I think I'm going to do this next week. I enjoyed this. I had a bit of a rant. Bit of a rant and a rave about the news. I'm going to review the week. I promise that my studio engineering will be better, because at the moment I've got a bit of a disco going off with this strobe. Flash warning. And yeah, I thought I had an idea about, I need to do something with this background so I can make the pictures come up a bit better, a bit more professional. But yes, this is the Ellis Broadcast. I'm going to review the news. That's what I'm going to do each week. I really enjoyed doing this. If you are listening, you know what? Do you know, to be honest with you, I've been clicking through this and I've not even checked the live chat at all. I've not checked it, and I
know many of you won't like what I'm about.
Oh no! Oh bloody hell! IT failure! No, I'm not chat. So in future, if you are listening to this, I am on Rumble. Get in the chat there. Chat to me. Somebody say hello. If you're watching this anywhere else, I am on all social media. I'm constantly on X at the moment. I'm trying to get my followership on there, which is proving harder than I thought, to be fair. It's proving harder than I thought. But I kind of want to get bigger on that, because of I'm always talking on there. I'm always conversating with people. Maybe politics is quite a niche thing. But yes, follow me on X, follow me on YouTube, follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, on all that. If you were listening to this, or you have found onto it, if you have come onto it, let me know what you think. Give me your comments, feedback, maybe some queries. I'm going to do this every Sunday. I'm going to attempt to do it a bit earlier next week. We had a busy weekend, and I almost had to push it to tomorrow, but then I felt that was going to be a bit weird, reviewing the news from last week. So yes, we're doing it today. If you have been listening throughout, thanks for listening. Your viewership is appreciated. This full video will be put on YouTube tomorrow when I've got time. And yeah, this is the Ellis Broadcast. I am your host, Ellis. I know my picture looks a bit different because now I'm a bit of a baldy, which I'm going to keep because it's so bloody good in the morning. And I'll see you on my social media. Thank you all.